Well, hello, welcome everyone, one and all, to another round of this, the 2K Skip Barber World Championship. This week it comes at you from the Autodromo Enzo e Dino Ferrari. We head to Imola for this stage of the championship. My name is Connery Maddock. I'll be joined by Nolan Rempel in just a good couple of moments' time, but it's fantastic to enjoy these Sunday evenings with you all here today. And of course, we are set for some fantastic racing as well. Another double header is going to be ahead of us for this one. So 2 races instead of what is supposed to be the usual one. But of course, we've only had one normal length race so far in this season. Still a lot more to come here as well. I'm going to be particularly excited for that. Let's have a look at the schedule, where we're at round number 4. And, well, next round we head to Hockenheim as a big sort of newcomer here on iRacing, but we've got a good couple of rounds under our belt already. Road Atlanta, Interlagos and Mid-Ohio in the bag as we head to the first race in May here at Imola. And, of course, you've got the entire schedule up on screen. You see it at the very end of the season. There's a very big unknown as to which tracks we will end up going to for the finale of this season. So that one's going to be one to look forward to. I have absolutely no idea what tracks we're going to. The drivers have no idea what tracks we're going to. So it's going to be a big curveball coming in there at the very end of the season. Let's have a little bit of a recap, though, of how this 2-race format works here for the double headers. We'll have race number 1, which is a race length of 5 laps and maximum cars 60. Of course, you have that characteristic 1-lap qualifying here in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. You have a single fast repair in both races here today. Drive-throughs every 15 instant points that you collect. When it comes to race number 2, though, you will be forced to do a one scheduled stop due to the 40% limitation on the fuel tank. That'll come around about lap number 9 to lap number 13. Let's have a look at the point system then. Of course, 50 for the race winner, 47 for second, and of course you can see it continue all the way down there to 40th place. So lots of points on offer here for this one. Also in this series, that one interesting thing that we have is the bonus point for every 3 laps the leader leads. So it's not just a single bonus point. If you lead a single lap, it's going to be collecting those, accumulating those over the course of the race if you remain in the race lead. So it really does promote drivers, instead of just trying to hang back and get the pass done on the last lap, then they can just sit ahead and collect those bonus points as the laps tick by. Let's have a look at the standings then. Coming into this round of the championship, Kane Halliburton just 2 points ahead of Diogo Francisco. Philippe Lebert not too far back either, as Anthony Katz is in 4th and Sam Keitert is in 5th in points at the moment. Philip Hammer in 6th with Simon Edwards in 7th. Alexis Vico in P8. Ludwig Guidi and Giuseppe Tellini will round out the top 10 in terms of the points order coming into this one. But we have to remind everyone that it is very early days here in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup for this particular season. We are just coming to the very end in terms of practice here before we get that 1-lap qualifying started. Of course, it is all or nothing in qualifying here in 2K. You deviate off your line, go and collect a 1X in the grass or in the gravel, and that is your qualifying completely and utterly done. You'll have to start at the very back of the grid if that happens. But 2 races to be able to improve positions here. Maybe ample opportunity for those poor qualifiers to be able to climb their way up through the field, especially with the reverse grid in effect for the second race here today. Top 10 will get themselves all swapped around when it comes to the main race here today. The practice session, drawing to a close now. We'll be heading into qualifying in just a couple of moments' time. And drivers will be on their out laps shortly here, as we'll get ourselves a view of it. There is Kane Halliburton. There is the championship leader here. So Going to be carrying a lot of momentum here into this round at Imola. That's not the most ideal start, though, coming off for the pit lane. He might even take the toe back towards the pit lane so we can get a little bit of a cleaner outlap going. There is Diogo Francisco trying to get some energy into his tyres, just shaking them all around, make sure they're up to temperature and up to pressure here on the outlap. Important to get those tyres into the right sort of operating window to be able to go as fast as possible on that qualifying lap. Of course, this circuit can be particularly tricky, especially when it comes to having the space to be able to make those overtakes happen, but no such difficulty here in qualifying. It's just the driver versus the track. No one else out there on circuit as far as these drivers are concerned. Diogo Francisco now heading his way down in towards the Acqua Minerale. Such a fantastic section of track as it's, well, initially downhill into the braking zone. Then as you go through those right-handers, you start to climb back up the hill. Careful not to track out too wide up over the curb, though. However, that will give you a 1x or, at worst, a slowdown penalty. In towards the Variante Alta then for Francisco on his outlap here. Just hopping his way all over those curves. Again, very careful to not push too wide coming out of that section. Otherwise, the aforementioned 1x will rear its ugly head and ruin your qualifying lap. Now heading down in towards the final two corners. The first Ravazza, then in towards the second Ravazza. Try and get the best run possible out of here. The final corner as Francisco dips two tyres out into the dirt, but that's not going to matter even if he gets a 1x, as this is his outlap, so he'll head his way across the line to start a lap here. Similarly so in a couple of moments' time here for Philippe Leber as he's heading his way in towards the final couple of corners, so he'll be on his way to start his lap very, very shortly. Looking further down the field, though, you have Brian Lockwood, who's currently come across the line to start his lap as well. And let's have a little bit of a ride on board then, shall we, with Brian Lockwood to see how he negotiates this particular circuit. He's already headed his way through the Tamburello chicane, pretty clean and tidy through there. Now he's got to spot the next entry point in towards the Villeneuve chicane. Just drag on the brakes into there, get the nose pointed in. These cars always want to sort of drift out slightly, so you just got to balance it on a knife's edge. Then look into the braking zone of Tosa, slightly uphill coming in through here. Gets even more uphill as you head your way towards the exit. Lockwood missing the apex on the inside by quite a margin here, but it's not going to factor into his lap time too much, I would have thought, as he starts to climb up the hill towards Piratella. Very fast left-hander, get that car swung in up over the curb for the inside and up over the curb for the outside as well, but there is a little bit of leeway as far as iRacing Insta points are concerned coming through that section into Acqua Minerale. Now get that car slowed down, flick it in. Absolutely perfect stuff there from Brian Lockwood. You know, it seems like a lot of wheel work, but it's very, very clean comparatively speaking for these Skip Barber cars. Now heading into the Variante Alta. Again, just launch it as much as you dare up over those curbs, but maybe Lockwood's done it a little bit too much there. I have to wonder if his lap time's going to be invalid by pushing wide. We'll just have to wait and see. He's continuing on regardless, though, not taking the toe back to pit lane, but this is the point where we'll start to see a lot of drivers set their one and only qualifying times here for the first sprint race of this evening. Heading his way out the final corner now is Brian Lockwood. What's the lap time going to be for the number 43? Let's have a look at it. 2 minutes, heading his way across the line. What will the exact time be? A 2:04.427 there. For Brian Lockwood, puts in provisional third place at the moment, but everyone else, you know, this flurry of lap times do come through relatively quickly here. Sam Keaton on pole position at the moment. Here's Zingretti heading their way across the line at the moment. Let's see how well they're able to do. Let's see how far up inside the grid that they can climb. Not that far, all things considered, and I don't think that lap time even counted there for Lorenzo. Kane Halliburton came across the line to go second place here in this qualifying session, and then just like that, that is everything done here for qualifying. It does end rather quickly. It's quite fast and furious with just that single lap to contend with here for this one. But let's have a look on the starting grid on the left-hand side of your screen here. It will be Sam Keita pole position with Kane Halliburton in P2, Simon Edwards P3 with Amadeo in P4, Tapia Vico P5, Brian Lockwood P6, Anthony Catt P7, Philip Hammer in P8, Gustavo Conde P9, and Manuel Lucetta in P10. George Matuszynski P11, and then you have Simone Zamolo, Philippe Lebert down in P13. Not a great qualifying effort for him. Folgarini in P14, Favero P15, and Plelska in P16 here today. The rest of your runners will be Spezzale, Sierra, Dancy, Griffin, Pazzoli, Francisco down to P22, so that's not a qualifying time set for him. Orlandi in P23, Tellini 24 for Ribalta, P25 Zingretti, P26, and Neil Kemp in P27 here today at Imola. So drivers slowly but surely taking themselves to the starting grid here then, as we'll await the starting signal to get race number 1 underway at Imola. Round number 4 of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup here. Just waiting for those drivers to get themselves ready, get themselves set. It's a decent run down in towards turn number 1 for the first time here, so maybe ample opportunity to get those overtakes done in towards Tamburello. We know how potent the draft is here in the Skip Barber machines. Let's see how potent it is at Imola as we now get the signal. We now get ready for the start of this round, and off and away we go here for round number 4 of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup at Imola. Sam Keita gets away well there in provisional pole position as Kane Halliburton has to file in behind. Simon Edwards in P3. He's trying to fight it out with Amadillo there in P4 as Ashley Amadillo's lost a couple positions there. He's down into P5 now, so not a great start there for Amadillo. Everyone clean, everyone very, very careful, at least in your front group coming through the first couple of chicanes. There's a bit of a puff of smoke coming through there from one of your front runners, but I think everything is still okay. Edwards losing a little bit of time here. Someone's off in the background. Big problems. Big problems further back. Pazzoli is stationary. Pozzati, excuse me, Ribalta. Those are the 2 cars caught in the gravel trap there, and we'll have another look to see exactly what has caused that one, because we didn't quite get to see it with our view looking at the very front of the field. But let's see what has happened here at the very back. We're watching Ribalta. In fact, it's way ahead of Ribalta where the problems start first happening, and then he just gets collected in it as a innocent party. So we'll wind things back a little bit further to see what the onboard view of Ribalta's was like. You'll see everything starting to happen ahead of him. Massive amounts of white smoke. Someone gets crowded off the circuit. Someone spins right back in front of traffic. And, well, there was absolutely nowhere where Ribalta could have gone in that situation. So unfortunate, but it's just one of those things that you have to deal with as a driver. Sometimes things aren't going to go your way, and you just have to take that one on the chin. But it's going to mean that a handful of drivers will at least take the tow back to pit lane here. Remember, the drivers do have a fast repair to use, as we'll get the standings up on the left-hand side. You can see those cars that took the tow, they get towed to the front, which is why they appear ahead of everyone else. But as we pass the pit lane, they will get shuffled back into their correct positions. But this is the leading train at the moment, led by Sam Keita, then Ken Halliburton second in line, Simon Edwards in third with Alexis Vico fourth, and Anthony Catt now in P5 as well. He had to take the shortcut coming across the first chicane there, and someone else is off as well. That is Amadillo. So those two have had a little bit of contact there coming in towards the first turn, and that's Anthony Catt pulling to the side of the circuit. He is out of this event, at least for the first race. We'll see 3 wide, 2 rows deep here on the replay here in towards the Tamburello, and then there's just a bit of wheel-to-wheel contact between Amadillo and Catt. That sends Catt out into the gravel. Amadillo had major problems as well, major damage, shall we say, but huge incident there behind your leaders on only what is the second lap of this entire race. So lots of problems there in the mid-pack. It does mean that this front grouping has gotten themselves a decent bit of separation now. It's Sam Kita leading at the moment. That's you can see Kaz at the top of the order because he gets towed around the circuit after that incident. So Kita is leading, Halberton's second, and Simon Edwards in third at the moment. So Alexis Vico also still in this battle in P4, but then it's a 3-second gap all the way back to this particular train, which has everyone and their mother in it right now. The battle for P6 currently on circuit, technically still a battle for P5 though, headed up by Manuel Lucetta, Brian Lockwood, Gustavo Conde, Philip Hammer in that order there, as you can see that in the battle graphic in the bottom right-hand side of your screen. So it's going to be interesting to see these developing situations both in the front pack and in this secondary train, as well as look at Brian Lockwood going to the very front of the second grouping. Gustavo Conde is also trying to follow in his tyre tracks here. We might even get to see 3 wide again. Yes, we will see 3 wide again on the way in towards Tamburello. Seems like these guys are fans of doing that. Brian Lockwood just not quite able to do anything about Gustavo Conde there, but Conde getting 2 positions down the front straight. Absolutely fantastic stuff to see. Lockwood will be able to come back at him though, coming in towards Villeneuve. He's going to go to the outside, try and make some progress. Can he swing it out on that outside line? Not quite. Trying to find the line through the corner. Not going to find any further progress. Someone had a bit of a problem further behind there. I think Leber went a little bit wide there. Now in towards Tosa in this second grouping. Conde just kind of managing the traffic from the very front. You can see the front train just pass by at the bottom of the camera shot there in towards Piratella. Those guys might potentially have something to say as far as their battle is concerned in the not too distant future. But kind of getting towards around about 5.5 minutes left in this sprint race, then still all to play for, both in that battle for P5 and that big long train, and of course that battle further down the road for the race lead. So enough of me just talking then, and we'll bring Nolan Rempel into the commentary booth in just a couple of moments time. But of course, as we watch this race leading pack coming down in towards, well, it's not really a pack, it's more of a trio with one straggler there in Alexis Vico in 4th place. Top 3 heading their way through the final 2 turns. Kita trying to get the breakaway done. Of course, it's going to be very, very hard to do so, especially with how powerful the draft block is around here, especially on this bit of circuit, down the pit straight and in towards turn number 1. Kane Halbert's going to be able to reel the race leader in quite comfortably there, so it's going to be unrealistic for Kita to expect that he can break away at this stage. But he's done just enough, at least coming out of the final corner, to keep himself ahead and to allow Kane Halbert no challenge really coming in towards the first turn. Look at this grouping still. The second train has been absolutely unafraid to go side by side time and time again here, and they're giving us a very, very good show indeed. Brian Lockwood currently leads this train now, but it seems like the leader of that train, Nolan, is well, it's always up for grabs and it's chopping and changing every single lap.
Well, when isn't it here at the Skip Barber 2K World Cup Series? I mean, this is just every race we've seen. This train is always flipping and swapping around. It was even like that when we went to Mid-Ohio just a couple of weeks ago. So it's definitely no news here. Hello, everybody. Nolan Rempel joining Connor Maddock up here in the booth. So, well, it looks like it's been a good race so far, though.
Yeah, it's been pretty comfortable. I mean, we had a couple of problems earlier on with some back markers, and actually the major incident we had was involving Anthony Cat and Lucas Amadio for inside the top 10 coming onto the second lap of the race, where they had a bit of a tangle coming down in towards turn number 1, which is why you see those drivers down, well, not down, but certainly not out. They were able to get the tow and the fast repair to get back out there, but they are certainly well off the rest of the pack at the moment. But everyone else has been pretty good, pretty respectful, and like you heard me say, Nolan, this second train has been the focus of all the action and all the side-by-sides at the moment, but we still have that front pack of 3.
And it's also worth noting as well that if you still have that future event to take place in as well, where the top 10 get inverted for that one as well. So about 3 minutes left in this one as Philippe Lebert runs a little bit wide there through the first part of Ravazza. He's going to do the same all the way to the gravel trap that time and kicking it out sideways on the exit onto the pit straight.
Let's have a little ride on board with Philippe Lebert. We're on the final lap now of this sprint race. Action happening ahead of Lebert there. We might even get to see some three-wide action once again. Here comes Gustavo Conde around the outside. He'll commit to the three-wide down in towards turn number 1. Can he get pole passes done? Yes, he can. That's a brilliant move there from Gustavo Conde as Hammer and Lockwood fight side by side and wheel to wheel through the first sector. Everyone's going to fan out. There's battling ahead in the front of the pack as well for P2 between Halliburton and Edwards, but this second train has been absolutely brilliant here. Let's have a look at the P2 battle, because that is more significant in the grand scheme of things. Edwards holding on. This is just allowing Keatik to get away though, Nolan.
Just allowing him to get away indeed. So the now Edwards is going to manage to really pinch Halliburton into the right side of the racetrack there as they thundered up the hill, but he is able to hold off through the Parentella and now through the Acqua Minerale. This is one of the most difficult corner complexes you can find in the world of motorsports. You're always breaking through the whole place, and you're also turning while you're doing it. It's one of the most difficult corner sections you can get, especially in European motorsports, if not world motorsports. So the Variante Alta Chicane at the top of the hill before they start to thunder back down for Ravazza. At this point in time, Halliburton's realistically got one more chance in terms of braking zones where you can make this pass work on Edwards.
Yeah, Keatic basically won this race. We saw an incident at the very back that has towed a couple of people to the front of the field, but of course that won't be official at the end of this race. Look at this side-by-side for P2 though, in towards the final couple of corners of this sprint race. Edwards versus Halliburton. Are they going to give each other space? I think they are. Halliburton runs out very wide. He'll be able to get the speed through the final corner to be able to challenge up towards the line though. Sam Keatic will win here at the sprint race in Imola, but who's going to come second? Because it's absolutely neck and neck between the two of them coming towards the start-finish line. I think Halliburton's going to get it just at the line, but it's as close as he like.
Just barely at the start-finish line, but manages to somehow get it done, and they're still single file all the way further in the back after that. But wow, what a photo finish there in the sprint race. And it's only going to increase from that when we get back around to, of course, the main race. But what a three-wide move around the outside line there in that second train.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. That was Gustavo Conde, who actually ended up finishing P5 here today. So fantastic stuff. Comes across the line ahead at the head of that second train still, so he's able to maintain it there coming through that final lap. But what a crazy race, well, final couple of laps that we've had here. Of course, it does mean that we'll now just about switch over into the feature race in just a couple of moments. But Nolan, again, it seems like the crazy finishes are going to continue as a trend, I suppose.
Again, the Skip Barber Formula 2000s are some of the best cars to race with. They are always able to get so close. They're so small. You can fit so many of them on a track at the same time. And if you get the right drivers in them, and we clearly have the right drivers here, and they can provide some of the most thrilling shows that you can find for many miles around. And once again, they showed us even at Mid-Ohio that can be true, at even duller tracks. Well, and then we get around to the more exciting tracks like Imola. And story is still the same.
Most important thing, we'll take a very quick look at your finishing results. Those are on the left-hand side. Keatic, Halliburton, Edwards, Fico, Conde as your top 5. But look further down at P10. Philippe Lebert, he will become pole position here for this feature event. So he's in the best seat in the house. Well, if you're not going to finish at the very front of the sprint race, P10 is probably the next best place to be.
And now they are indeed starting to line up for that final position. And, of course, the race winner, Sam Keatic, he is going to be starting 10th place on the grid.
Yeah, he is. So you can see that the reverse grid is in effect. So Lebert lines up first. Zamolo will line up on the front row as well. Then Brian Lockwood in P3, Manuel Lucetta P4, Philip Hammer P5, Conde P6, Vico P7, Edwards P8, Halliburton 9th, and Sam Keita P10. Everyone else has finished in the is starting in the exact order that they finished there from P11 and back here in this one. So we just had an absolutely action-packed sprint race, but what will the feature race hold? And remember, of course, we have that scheduled stop to do, as well as a little bit of strategy intrigue coming into this one in the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. The doubleheader is underway here at Imola. Green flag racing action here as Philippe Leber heads his way down in towards turn number 1 as the race leader. Zamolo and Lockwood fighting side by side though for P2 behind. Zamolo able to get himself ahead, or rather keep himself ahead. Lockwood has to fall back in line. Everyone else fanning out back in the background there though, as everyone else looks like they're clean through. No, big crash, and I think I saw a blue car go out very wide. Ribalta had a big moment there. I think also Anthony Cat had a massive moment as well. I'm just going to cycle things back to see exactly what happened here, but again, it might be another start instant that Anthony Cat was either involved in or had to avoid.
He had to avoid it for sure. Not quite sure how that totally went out for him, but you'll be able to see it was just on the exit of the corner here, right about there, right behind him. A couple of cars got sent right around to the back. It's just classic wheel-to-wheel contact as well. So unfortunate there for the 249 of Antonio Ribalta to kind of get involved in that one. And another driver that had a lap on incident was, of course, George Machinsky, who actually ran a bit deep into the Tosa hairpin and hit the wall, but not near as big of an incident as you take a look at that one from the helicopter. Big wreck.
Yeah, you got to be careful sometimes in these Skip Barber cars with the wheel-to-wheel contact. Sometimes they get a little bit tangled, shall we say. Let's have a look back at the live pictures then. Well, we'll get the timing tower out. It won't be representative of the front positions right now due to everyone getting themselves towed back towards the front of the field. So those guys down on pit lane. So Leber is actually maintains the race lead at the moment. Of course, he did start pole position. Then Lockwood, second place. So he's been able to pick up second over the course of this lap. Zamolo in P3 here in this one. So as those cars that are down on pit lane get past, and we'll get ourselves a more representative timing tower, we'll get to see if these guys can do a little bit of early battling then, as we'll get ourselves the laps up on the left-hand side there, as we'll get ourselves all set then, coming down in towards turn number 1. No passes being made just yet, as those guys will be able to negotiate through. So someone's out into the gravel there. Conde had a big moment, completely missing the first chicane, and now he's going to lose a bunch more positions.
He was side by side with Kane Halliburton in the run down to turn number 1. I don't think there was contact. I think Conde just got a bit onto the grass there, 2 right sides into the grass, just on the very entrance of the corner. That would have done it. Halliburton's had another off at the, well, actually the next chicane after this one. So we'll take a look at this one first. There goes Conde. 2 tries into the grass, and just away you go into the gravel.
Yeah, the grass really does grab here. I'm going to remain on this replay here because I think something might have happened ahead of Gustavo Conde here, because I did see a whole bunch of white smoke. Yeah, Halliburton had a big slide. Wow, that's a bit of a drift there from Halliburton. Oh, he's got to be so careful with the rejoin, making sure that he doesn't tag another car. But what a great amount of car control there from Halliburton.
And Philippe Leber has had some issues because he's just been dumped out of the lead by about 5 spots. He's all the way down to 6th in 1 corner. So something has happened to Philippe Leber. Looking at it, it was at the very exit of the Akin Minerali complex there, right by the brick wall. I think, again, just lost it all by himself because he was nowhere near to Lockwood at the moment on the entry here.
Yeah, we'll continue it and get it all done in this replay. Tried to do his best Kane Halliburton impression, but he's going to be punished a lot more for doing that. He might even get a slowdown penalty by going that wide through Aqua Minerale as well. That's one of the places where you can pick one of those up, as yes, he's now down in P number 7 at the moment. So yeah, a lot of drama here early on in this feature race. Some very strong contenders having a good couple of problems, but let's have a look back to the very front, because we're going to go wheel to wheel. Here is Philip Hammer in the race lead, Lockwood 2nd, Vico 3rd, Zamalo in 4th. But no further shuffles other than that coming down in towards turn number 1 here for the third time in this event. Of course, we get 16 laps on the board for this one. Our pit window will be around about lap number 9 to 13 is the prediction. So definitely too early to come down in just yet, but we have seen our fair share of early stop strategies over the course of this season, Nolan.
Indeed we have. We've seen a couple guys come in really early, and in fact, most notably of that was at Mid-Ohio, where that strategy actually almost worked out for a couple of drivers coming in really, really early in the feature race, because it put them in a lot of clean air that didn't have to battle with anybody, which is great on a much more twisty track. Not so much on a track like this, where you really need the drafty partner to work with down the very, very long straightaways at some points. Long, at least, in the terms of how these Skip Barbers and the tracks they usually run on. There's another battle further in the back here, Connor, we wanted to pay attention to as well. Giuseppe Tellini is on the battle here with the 202 machine of Fergiarni, who has lost a couple of spots this lap, as a matter of fact. And look behind, there is Conde as well, trying to throw his way back into the mix, trying to recover on lost time.
Yeah, but he had a bit of a car control issue coming through the Acqua Minerale there, as we'll get ourselves a view of him there coming through the chicane. Of course, you can't really miss him in that red and yellow machine. Of course, he has his name all over the engine cover as well. Someone's got a slowdown penalty. Kane Halliburton. Halliburton's gotten the slowdown penalty. He'll cycle even further back through the field. It's not gone well here in the early stages of the feature race for your championship leader. Now he's having to fight, and now he's tagged a car around. Oh, it just goes from bad to worse for the Racecraft Esports driver.
Got tipped around by Andrea Spezial down into the Ravazza hairpins, and almost hit a second time, as a matter of fact, but thankfully Spezial managed to kind of keep it out of him for the second time. So here he is, still serving a slowdown penalty as we now ride on board with him. You're going to watch it. It's going to happen just from behind, and he's not going to see it coming at all. But it's going to be down here to Ravazza. Where does this hit come? Right about there. Locked up big time as well, trying to keep this one settled. So big incident for Halliburton, but we're also side by side for the race lead, and in fact, I believe he just had a swap for the race lead as well, as Philip Hammer is up to the point, with Tapia Vico up to second now.
Yeah, Vico's been running relatively well so far, and in fact, I would say if you're running in this front pack, you've probably done as well as you could do so over the course of the start of this race. We've seen it be so important for especially the late stages of the race, where you just, if you're not in this leading pack, you have absolutely no chance. If you keep yourself in this leading pack, you're going to have at least the opportunity to get yourself onto the podium, if not the race win, given the right set of circumstances. But you do need to place your car in the right place at the right time in those final couple of laps to be able to make that sort of forward progress, because that's the same thing everyone else is trying to do as well.
Look at how close Simone Imola was getting to the back end of Brian Lockwood here in the battle for about third and fourth out there. Lockwood, meanwhile, was almost bump dragged with Alexis Tapia Vico, and all this is allowing Philip Hammer to start to pull a little bit more of a gap. This chicane up here, though, is the chicane that a lot of these drivers have got to watch out for. The Alta chicane. It is so difficult for these drivers to have to kind of work with that. So Zamolo is going to be able to try to find the inside of potential for Ravazza. Lockwood trying to cover him off, and Zamolo's going to think better than to make a big send down the back. Bears back, though, as he's down the inside of Lucena just behind.
Yeah, bold move now. Keita gets almost squeezed out into the gravel there. Had to go very, very wide through the final corner, and I see a couple of drivers in the background also going very wide through the final corner, just dipping those two tires into the dirt and into the gravel as well. Now the big old slipstream fest, the big old drag race down in towards turn number one. Lebert's going to go for the move once again. There's a move happening at the very front as well, with Lockwood and Zamolo also going wheel to wheel. Fantastic stuff here. Lebert has to be careful. You saw how that car was weaving on the, well, wiggling, I would say, on the brakes. I wouldn't say weaving, but wiggling on the brakes as he's tried to get it slowed down.
Ronan Griffin in the 251 machine had a big shot at the exit of the Ravazza double hairpin complex there. So there's another two drivers that are going to find themselves very much out of the race here in this one. This is still a great battle that we're seeing for the race lead here in the fourth round for the Skip Barber 2K World Cup in their 2021 campaign. My goodness, I mean, I love watching these types of races. They are so chaotic, and there is just always action every single lap right through to the end. You can't ask for anything more. You can't
at all, but again, we're at the stage of the race at the moment where, yes, there are these fights going on, but it's more for positioning coming into the into the first and only set of stops here on lap number 5 of 16. Pit window opens, at least by our prediction, on lap number 9. So that's for the earliest where we'll start to see a lot of drivers think about heading their way down on towards pit lane. But of course, it's always such a risky thing here in this series, considering if you come down in all alone and then you don't catch anyone coming off the pit lane, you're not going to have a slipstream partner to go as fast as possible down some of these, well, especially the pit straight. So you're going to be a bit of a sitting duck and maybe not going to get as many good outlaps done as you would otherwise. So again, it's more advisable to come down with a group than it would be on your own, which is typically not a problem here, considering how many cars we do have in this race. We're about 23 cars circling right now, but there's always a chance where you just kind of go against everyone else in terms of the decision. Look at 3 wide at the background though. Edwards, Keatit, Zamolo also involved in this. They will back out at 3 wides in towards turn 1 this time around, but again, it seems like that's been the theme, I suppose, with some of these deeper in the train battles.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure that when we get further on in the race, we're not going to be seeing anybody really backing out of the 3 wide move. They are going to try to make that work coming into Tamburello, especially when we get into the closing laps, like the last 2-3 laps or so of the race. It just wouldn't surprise me. It's something that just seems like such a 2K thing to do, going 3-4 wide in the closing stages of the race. I mean, how many times have we seen that? We've seen that at what, Interlagos? We saw that road at Atlanta. I mean,
yeah, we've seen it basically in all races so far. So we'll have to see if this is going to be any different. Things at the very front of the field have calmed down a fair amount, though. You can see the separation that's starting to happen for the podium spots, at least, as Hammer tries to break away. So does Vico as well. They're putting decent gaps on those cars behind, but not going to be enough, I don't think, to break the draft before the pit stop window. But of course, you know, there might still be fuel-saving games from those cars going on behind in the train as well. So, and we've seen how influential before those shorter stops can be when it comes to that pit stop phase.
oh, absolutely. I mean, these pit stops they can really make or break a race, especially if you end up making a mistake. They can really break the race in a big hurry there. So we'll have to wait and see how this is going to shape up for a lot of the drivers when we get around to that pit stop window in the next 2-3 laps, kind of give or take in that range. At this point in time, the first place and 8th or 9th have really separated out from the rest of the field here, because you got them and then you got a couple of 2-3 car trains behind, and then everybody else just kind of running single file. And it's a trend that we see very, very commonly in these races. It's common to see, you know, the top 5, the top 8 or so single file out and kind of get away from the rest of the field before everybody else just kind of scraps away behind them.
Yeah, so as it stands, Keatit in that final podium position. The front 2, again, the gap is looking to get a little bit larger every single time I check it out, but again, we can't call it as far as them breaking the draft just yet. And of course, we are just a couple of laps away from that pit stop window as well. So Hammer and Vico, the leading duo at the moment, trying to separate themselves from the rest of the pack, doing a decent job of it right now, but it's so tough to really get anything done and then run in your own little bit of space at the very front. You always have that big old peloton behind you, to use a cycling racing term, that is always just looking to try and charge you down.
You always have got the couple drivers behind you, and they're going to keep you honest the entire race so far. It's a trend not just this series, but in fact every series. You're always going to have those guys that really like to make sure that you keep yourself on your toes, that they will not ever let you have a break. And when you look at this here, through this middle section, it even looks as though Sam Keatit is starting to close in a little bit more on Alexis Tapiavico. And I'm noticing Kemp is now in pit road. Has he had an issue, or is that a scheduled stop for him? It looks like he took a tow.
Yeah, I think it was a tow, since he got towed around the rest of the circuit and appears at the very top, and he's 40 seconds on the pit lane right now, riding on board with Sam Keatit. He's got a very good run over Vico here, and I think Vico got to slow down. Vico got to slow down coming through the Variante Alta, and it's dropped him back into the clutches of this train now.
That would make a lot of sense to me here because you got, of course, the normal curves and the anti-cut curves. He jumped over the anti-cut curves almost in its entirety there, so that would not surprise me if that's why Alexis Vico slowed down massively here. That's in fact exactly what happened here. So
yeah,
there you see right there, that was the big jump for Vico, and that definitely would give you a slowdown penalty.
Yeah, it absolutely would. But he doesn't fall any more positions though. He's in P3. So it was just Sam Keita that was able to squeak by and get himself up into the second spot there. We're seeing a lot of sort of early stops here. We see Diogo Francisco coming down on towards pit lane for his scheduled stop. Gustavo Conde also deciding to come down in now. Anthony Cat also in as well. So a lot of drivers that maybe haven't fared too well in the opening portion of this race deciding to get this stop done out of the way early, and then have maybe a little bit of clear air coming in towards the towards this middle portion of the race to be able to put some good laps in and then come out ahead as far as the undercut's concerned.
It's not a bad idea, you know, kind of come in, get out in clean air, run a couple of laps with no traffic around you, and then that way when everybody's split all the way back up, you've actually made up a little bit of time compared to the guys that are going side by side every lap, almost every corner as a matter of fact. So third, fourth, fifth, and sixth have actually really closed into the top two here. So we were right on to call this breaking the draft because they've really closed in recently. Hammer is still out in front by a couple of tenths here, but Sam Keita is just behind it. He's trying to keep Alexis Vico behind in the third position as well. And Vico, meanwhile, is just trying not to get another slowdown penalty there and go down yet another spot. But look at the run that Keita has off of the corner.
Yeah, he's tucked up right under the rear wing of your leader. He's going to look to the inside. Nope, he's just going to duck back in line for the first of the two revats, as it does allow Vico to get just that little bit closer as well. This might be telling coming in towards the final corner, and that big old run down the front straight. Lockwood went very wide out into the gravel that time around. Someone's in. I think that's Felipe Bear coming in now. Philip Hammer going all the way to the pit wall there to try and cover off any sorts of moves that Keita was thinking about. He's still going to have a run of speed here in towards turn one here for the 9th time in this event, but he's going to play it patiently. He's just going to sit there and wait and make sure he gets his fuel numbers.
That's actually a good strategy as well, because it does mean you do not have to spend as much time in pit road. You can just get yourself in and away a lot quicker than some of the guys up in front. That's something that we saw play in really big when it came to Interlagos. Now Felipe Bear leaving pit road with a 12.5 second stop for the number 14 machine. He's going to have himself a little bit of work to do, I feel, but he might find himself in some pretty clean air just up in front.
Yeah. Yeah, basically in a little bit of no man's land here. So at least he isn't going to be held up or impeded or anything like that. But he does not have a drafting partner though, so that might be a little bit of a concern here. But we'll see how his progress is going to be made or not, coming in through the middle portion of this race and into that second half where everyone would have completed their stops and everything is a little bit more representative out there in terms of actual position. Compared to around about now, since we've had about half, well, just under half of the currently running cars come down on towards pit lane. So still another half to go to visit the pit lane and get their fuel for the end of this race. Keita, again, at points he's been looking aggressive, but however, when he's gifted these big slipstream opportunities, he hasn't been taking them. So, and that's a deliberate call, at least I suspect. Just so that he's in a better spot to get the short stop in when he does come on towards pit lane.
We are in that pit window, and here we go. First, second, oh, maybe not. Second, third, and fourth all bail back out onto the tracks. Only first and fifth come down for the main train, and 6th, 7th, 8th, 11th, 9th, and 10th all coming in just behind as well. But the top three now stayed out after a very late call to stay back out. And they're still battling for position out there, going too wide into turn one.
Yep, let's take another look at it as there they are. Vico fighting with Lockwood for P number 2. Lockwood's really hounding the back of that car ahead of him. Let's ride on board with him as he heads his way in towards Villeneuve. Not going to be looking for a move into here. Not really the best of overtaking spots. Maybe you can set yourself up maybe for a late on the brakes move into Tosa That's one of the favorite moves, overtaking moves here at Imola, but just going to stay behind for now. He knows he's well, he's going to have to be thinking about the big picture. He's had the vast majority of this front pack come down on towards pit lane. It's just these three that have stayed out here at least this extra lap, but they could go for more.
So far, the general pit lane delta has been between 46 and 50 seconds relatively. I'm seeing 46.5, 47.9, 46.3, 46.6. So within that range, and right about now, there's only a 42-second gap between Philippe Lebert and Sam Keeter. So I think by that logic here, unless Sam Keeter can have a 4-second slower pit stop, Philippe Lebert will be clear by them for a couple seconds.
Yeah, Lebert has been putting in some great laps here on his out lap, so it's been very, very successful for Lebert at the moment, but we'll see what exactly happens when these guys come down on towards pit lane. Lockwood and Vico certainly not hanging about, as they'll go at least briefly wheel to wheel in towards the first Ravazza, but again, that's just lost time as far as they're concerned, back to, or rather up to Sam Keeter. Is Keeter going to head his way in now? Yes, he is. Same with Lockwood, and same with Vico. So the front trio head their way in on towards pit lane to get their one and only scheduled pit stop service. But Philippe Lebert, there's the driver that's the highest placed out of all of those cars that had pitted. It was just those three at the front that hadn't pitted just yet. Philippe Lebert, where is he going to come out in relation to all of those leaders? That's the question. Pit stops in progress for the three.
And here comes Lebert up towards the first Ravazza, definitely closing in a hurry here. Remember, he's got to get about 46 seconds, or they're both off and away. 11.2, 11.4 second stops for both Keeter and Lockwood. Lebert still closing behind. Diego Francisco also down to the lane this time by. He's going to be dropping well down the timing order as a result of all of that. Only 14 seconds and still closing. They're both off and away, though, so somehow they have defied the odds and actually come out in front of Philippe Lebert. Here comes Lebert. He's going to get past Vico, the third-place driver, but he is not going to get back past Brian Lockwood and Sam Keeter, who are now well clear in front of the field.
Yeah, great fuel strategy from both Keeter and Lockwood there. They went they basically pulled off the fastest stops of everyone so far in this race. They were 11.2 and 11.3 apiece as far as pit stop times. Everyone else kind of mid-11s and higher. So a great strategy so far here for Sam Keeter and Lockwood. Whether or not that's included any slight under-fueling, we'll just have to wait and see. But for those guys, especially Lockwood, who were caught behind traffic for the vast majority of this race, so they were able to get that fuel saving done. And we saw Keeter as well in the back end of that first stint, also just kind of sit behind and get some fuel saving done as well for himself. So that's been the plan the entire time for Keeter and Lockwood. We see Halliburton's had major issues, it seems, and he's taken another tow back to pit lane. I'm going to replay this one since it is quite significant, because that's the championship leader and he's out of the car.
No idea what has happened here. It looks like it was on the exit of Tosa here, so we're down into the Tosa hairpin, and onto the replay here. Does he spin and hit the wall? He pulls it to the side and tows it. So something big has happened there for Halliburton. Not sure what it was, but whatever it was definitely significant enough to cause him to have to stop racing.
Yeah, maybe he's just calling it quits. I'm not sure the reason why he would, considering there's still points on offer. So it's, there's points all the way down to 40th place. We don't even have 40 cars in this event. So every position that you gain, you're going to be scoring a couple of extra points. So not exactly sure what the reasoning is behind that. It does mean that your championship leader now drops down the timing order and will also be hemorrhaging a whole bunch of points as well. So that's the interesting thing. It will mean that a couple of other drivers will be gaining a whole bunch in terms of the points delta. You see Diego Francisco, he won't, because he's also retired. So that's the top two of your points order right now. Retired from this feature event. Philippe Lebert is third in points, and he's currently fourth in the standings in this race. So he's getting a whole bunch of points over the top couple of contenders in the points.
That he is, and I'm pretty sure Leber is not complaining at all for the misfortunes of Halliburton and Francisco. He is just going to be saying, well, thank you very much. That's a mighty fine points all you got there. You wouldn't mind if I had a bit of a swing at that, would you? So this is perfect for Felipe Leber and his championship run here to try and maybe get himself back up. It's also good for guys like the likes of Simon Edwards, who we know are really fast in these types of cars. So this is going to be good for a lot of drivers now that we're trying to get up there.
Yeah, it really is. You know, that's just how sometimes the championship swings. I'm looking back because there was a little bit of movement there in the second little pack that we have here involving Alexis Vico, Philippe Leber. We've got Simon Edwards also involved in this one as well, but they sit around about 4 seconds off of your race leading duo at the moment. So with the amount of laps that we have left, it's going to be very unlikely that they'll be able to do anything about the leading two unless they decide to fight tooth and nail and sort of bring this second pack back into contention. But I don't see that happening for the moment. It might just have to be a last 2 or so lap thing.
So 4 laps remaining, and they're going side by side, positions for the back here. They're not trying to catch up anymore. Felipe Leber making the run around Alexis Tapia Vico for the final spot inside the podium. I think it's safe to say that they are not going to be catching those other guys that are now 3-4 seconds up the road from them. The highest these guys in the back are going to get is 3rd.
I think that's probably a fair assessment at this stage of the event, but they did gain a handful of tenths of a second over those last couple of moments over your race leaders, so I wouldn't count them out, but it does require some form of outside influence. You know, it requires these guys at the very front start to fight and, well, fight a little bit harder and to slow each other down. You know, that can happen, especially coming through the first sector where it's so single line dependent. If you go side by side through there, then you're going to be slowing up each other a whole bunch. And that might be one of the conditions required for P3 and back to get themselves involved in the battle for the race lead once again. But for now, it is just these two, Sam Keita, Brian Lockwood, mano a mano, into the final laps of this race. Hopefully it doesn't get too physical, though.
Now we can hope all we like, but you never know what might happen here. Simon Edwards kind of looking to the inside of Vico. I think just trying to avoid getting too big of a drafting run up towards Vico for the Alta chicane. But so far, the battle for 3rd has been one of the closest things we've got on the track so far. I mean, Keeter and Lockwood, they're kind of hanging around at about half a second so far. I mean, Lockwood has not really been able to get close enough to properly have a go at Sam Keeter. And I'm wondering if this is by design from Lockwood's end, or if he's just not fast enough in the middle section of the track.
I mean, it could be any number of elements here. At least, though, Brian Lockwood has the slipstream coming down this pit straight, which is keeping himself in contention. You can see him start to gain time, you know, all the time on the way here into turn 1. But again, it's not. The thing is, he needs to be a bit closer coming out of the final corner to be able to attempt that challenge. Something's happened, I believe, to Philip Hammer. I think I saw him dropping down the order quite a bit there. But it seems fine, still remains on the circuit, but I did see a flash of red and green on the timing tower.
Might have just had to swap a position down the straight towards Tamburello, and it wouldn't surprise me, of course. It's one of the very easy straights where you can go and get an overtake in these much more slower cars. I mean, heck, we saw in the sprint race cars going 3 wide, even into Tamburello, and still managed to somehow hold it as well. And look at this, another battle down at the Tosa there, and that is going to be Hammer retaking the position from Filippo Ares Orlandi.
So there's still a slight overlap now. There isn't on the way into Piratella for the 14th time in this race. All filing single file through there. You can see how wide they like to push out onto the green, but that is absolutely fine. Track limits a little bit lenient coming through there as they head into Aqua Minerale now. Great to see these guys, you know, be nose to tail, and you know, that's the kind of what we've become used to here in this sort of racing. But we are coming in towards the dying moments of this race now, Nolan. It's the race lead is basically this little duel between two drivers. The guys behind are continuing to fall a bit further back now. So I think that's basically sealed unless these two get a little bit too close for comfort and put each other in the wall. I don't think anyone from that second pack is going to be winning this race.
2 to go. Still time for something to happen in that leading train. If Lockwood tries a very desperate move around the outside of Keeter, particularly in the last lap into Tamburello, would not surprise me. But so far throughout this race, when people have gone side by side through Tamburello, they have not been really having too much of an issue getting past there. The battle for third is also on as Leber and Vico looking to swap hands again in the run down towards turn number 1 here. Simon Edwards still waiting in the wings and still deciding not to kind of poke his nose in there.
Yeah, playing the patience game. This is all the chess, the strategy, the strategic games that the drivers are playing in their heads right now. Just this is what they've been waiting for. These final couple of laps to try and execute what they've been planning over the last, well, almost entire race distance. So, it's a game of cat and mouse. In towards Tosa now for this battle for third place. Leber still leads this particular pack around. Vico losing a little bit of speed there through Tosa. Might come under threat from Edwards in a couple of moments, but might be able to keep Edwards at bay, and he will be successful in doing so there. Gap for the race lead under half a second, though, as Lockwood continues on his attempted charge at getting the race win at the end of this, but again, Keita's been doing so well to try and keep him at bay. There's the battle further down the road for the race lead. Keita has just managed this gap very well.
And correct me if I'm wrong here, Connor, but aren't those two also teammates for the lead?
Not entirely sure. They're on different liveries here, but Keita, Lockwood, let's see what their situation is here at the very end. Gap is up to about 0.8 of a second on the way here in towards the final 2 regatas. So this is not a close enough gap for Lockwood to be able to do anything about Keita. He needs to be within around about half a second coming out of the final corner, not 0.7.
8.5 now,
yeah.
So he's going to have a long run down towards Tamburello. Unless he can really close something up here in this final section of the lap, it's not going to happen. I think Sam Keeter might have this one wrapped up.
Yeah, this would have been his chance, because you don't get this run down in towards turn number 1 on the final lap. It's just that run up towards the line. Speaking of battles, though, here's the side-by-side between Edwards and Leber. Edwards trying to go the long way around. At Tamburello gets it done. Here comes Vico as well to try and get past. Oh, someone's gone off in the background there. Philip Hammer. Hammer's had a big problem through the first chicane there, through Tamburello. Still side-by-side between these guys, though. Leber and Vico. Leber just about coming out on top in that situation. But this one still might change here, deeper in this battle for P3, 4, and indeed 5. Looking back at the race lead, though, there's Keita, about half a second ahead now. That gap is coming down in bit by bit, but is it too little too late here for Brian Lockwood? Has he just timed it all at the wrong time? Now into Aqua Minerale, car sliding about a lot, trying to get the speed off, but this will just have to be a drive to the line now for Brian Lockwood. He has no other option. If he had an extra lap, he'd be able to follow closely coming out of the final 2 regatas, but now he has to get so close through those final 2 corners. He needs to get so close. The leader slid the car coming through the Variante Alta, able to hold it together, though, gives Lockwood a bit of a run of speed now down in towards that final sector. Look at how close he is. We might see side by side for the race lead across the line. It is certainly not over, Nolan, as there's another bit of a slide for Sam Keita. The pressure is telling. Can Lockwood nail the exit of this corner now to be able to get the run? It's a decent run to the start-finish line here at Imola, but it's simply not going to be enough, I don't think. Sam Keita just about, does he win this race? He has to lift out. No, he doesn't win it. Lockwood had the run. I think Keita had spluttered across the line.
Out of fuel! Who knew a fuel mileage race would decide this one, but Sam Keeter right at the worst possible time. Unbelievable.
That is one very sad sounding car, silent sounding car. Oh, that is crazy. We knew the stops were short. I tossed around the idea of them under-fueling. Meanwhile, that battle for the second train, by the way, well, Simon Edwards did come out on top of that one, then Leber, then Vico. But let's have another look at what was an absolutely enthralling finish here at Imola. There's the sputting across the line, but let's have a little bit of a ride on board with Sam Keatit then to see exactly what the situation was coming up towards the line there.
That's why Lockwood backed out and why he lost so much time. He was saving fuel. Fuel that Keator did not save, and it paid off. He saved fuel right to the last lap and then put the foot down and gave it the beans.
That is tragic. That is absolutely tragic there for Keatit. A win robbed away by the engine just sipping its last sip of fuel just before the line. If it did that about, what, a second or two later, he might have gotten to the line first. That's how close it was.
Oh my gosh. I'm at a loss for words there. I mean, that hurts to see when you know you're so close. So close.
That's one of the closest fuel mileage events that I've ever commentated on, with just sputtering across the line, trying to get it home. But it wasn't enough. Lockwood had the speed, he had the run, and you know, there was a couple of elements in there. Maybe if Keatit hadn't slid it coming through Variante Alta, if he hadn't had those problems earlier on in the lap, then maybe, just maybe, he would have gotten to the line even with the sputter. But in the end, my word, that is absolutely crazy. You can see those are the finishing results on the left-hand side there. Lockwood wins by 89 thousandths of a second over Simon Edwards, then Philippe Leber in P4. Or rather, Brian Lockwood wins, over Sam Keatit by 89 thousandths of a second, then Simon Edwards, then Leber, then Vico in 5th place. Orlandi 6th, Lucetta 7th, Cellini 8th, Vigherini in 9th, and Conde in 10th place here today. Favero 11th, Zingretti 12th. Amadio, Pozzati, Griffin, Zamolo, and Cat down to P18 here today. And, well, it's been a horrible time for the two drivers at the very top of the championship. And, you know, Kane Halliburton and, of course, Diogo Francisco both out of this feature event. So things looking pretty good right now, at least in terms of the points calculations for Philippe Leber coming towards the end of this one. And, of course, you know, with that race win in the bag now for Brian Lockwood, he's going to be gaining a whole bunch of points as well. So Sam Keatit also going to be in a brilliant position as well in the points order. So this is one of those races where the championship has really swung slightly, not in the favor of Halliburton or Francisco.
And it goes to show exactly why every one of these races really, really matters. I mean, you can have these amazing fights taking place throughout the course of the season, and even when it looks like two people might be running away with the title, it takes one race to really mess all of that up. And that's exactly what happened today for both Francisco and for Halliburton. So this has really kind of blown things wide open.
It really, really has, and we can indeed have a little bit of a talk to your race winner, believe it or not, Brian. It didn't look like that. It was going to turn out that way coming out of the final corner, but it ended up working out for you thanks to a little bit of fuel troubles from Sam's side. How was that from your seat? Because that must have been a big surprise for you as well.
Oh, from my seat, probably the luckiest win of my life. You know, Sam and I were on communications. He was telling me he was short on fuel. I thought we had very close to the same number. So I thought if he was going to sputter, I was going to sputter. But in the end, I guess he just got there a little bit early, and I was able to take it. But honestly, today I wasn't the fastest car. Clearly, I'm not even sure I was the 5th fastest car, but. The race played out in a way that just put me in the right spot.
Yeah, that's sometimes really the the little thing that's needed in these races where everyone is relatively close, and of course the draft lock is what it is. You need that something extra, something special to be able to come out on top. But in a way, you've said it yourself. This one was slightly lucky going out of the final corner, but it did seem that sort of go later than everyone else in the strategy and come in and short fuel it, like what you and Sam did, was the winning strategy. But the margins are so close that could have been absolutely the losing strategy.
Absolutely. And, well, I think if I was putting on the same lap as Sam, I would have been hard to do too. It would have been difficult to do too badly. I really have to give it to him. He's just been on fire lately. Last week, running Porsches, he won a really strong field. Today, he was just lights out from qualifying, and pace was just nuts. So honestly, I just kind of held on to his coattails and lucked into it at the end. But he was the star of the show today.
Yeah, well, we'll see his development over the course of this season, and of course in other things that he might potentially do as well. But at least for you, Brian, this again, this is a good points haul for you as well, especially considering those at the front of the championship didn't do particularly well here today. Kane Halliburton and Francisco both out of the feature event, so this sets you up a little bit better in terms of championship coming into the next couple of rounds. I would have thought, of course, outside the top 10 coming into this particular round, but surely this gives you a bit more of a confidence boost now.
Yeah, just taking it one race at a time, but it was great to have an event that was incident-free, had some good racing. Some frustrating racing here and there, but that's the way the skippies go.
It is, and we absolutely enjoy it every single time with the racing that you guys put on. So thank you very much for joining us, Brian. Congratulations on the race win, and looking forward to seeing you in the next one.
Thank you, thank you.
All right, there we go. That was Brian Lockwood, their race winner here in the feature event at Imola, and of course, always quite humble, I would say there, Nolan. Acknowledging that Sam was absolutely amazing here today, but unfortunately it was just that final 50 meters to the line that meant that Sam didn't come away with this race win.
It's all it takes. It's why so many people say, always put your foot to the floor even a little ways after the checker flag, because you just never know. I mean, how many times have you seen this? Even in real racer, people have run out of fuel coming to the line, or people have even just thought they had it won and didn't even slow down and lost the win that way by premature celebrations. I mean, it goes to show you cannot ever think that somebody is safe until after they have crossed that line.
Yeah, and of course here at Imola, the start-finish line is, not immediately coming out of the final corner like some FIA Grade 1 tracks that we go to. So, yeah, you do have to be careful with that. And but the thing is, Keaton knew, you had to get to the line, but the fuel just did not last. It just, cut off, 10, 20 kilometers an hour, and then all of a sudden that was just Brian through. But we will be able to get a word with the driver in question here. We'll bring Sam up into the commentary booth. Sam Keita, that must be one of the most cruel ways to lose a race that I've probably ever seen, Sam.
Yeah, it wasn't the best on the end, but those things happen sometimes. I just missed like 0.1 liters of fuel. But yeah, I couldn't be too sad about the race, I think, in general.
Yeah, your pace was pretty impressive out there today. Of course, you're able to come away with the sprint race win, shall we say? So not the sprint race win. So that cycled you back into P10 for the feature event, and it was a great drive from that P10 up into the podium positions. And again, it makes your position in the championship look a lot better now, because like I said to Brian, we had Kane Halliburton drop out of this race, we had Diego Francisco drop out of this race, so this is a big swing in your favor in terms of points now.
Yeah, I think definitely. Sadly, of course, are my teammates, and I think it was really good possible today to just maybe even lock it in P1 to P4, but yeah, it's getting really close. I think at the top. I don't know the point standing exactly, but probably yeah, around something 10 to 15 points. The top 3, even 4. So yeah, it looks fun. But I think it's still a long season to go. Don't know exactly how long, but from a feeling, what I remember from it, it's long.
Yeah, we are still in the relatively early stages of the championship. We head to round number 5. We actually head to Hockenheim for the 5th round of the championship in 2 weeks' time. So Sam, is that a track that you've gotten used to on iRacing just yet? I know it's very new to the service. Have you driven it on other sims as well? And you know, what's your experience with that track?
Yeah, I really like the track. It's like really technical, but also yeah, fast with that first corner, which you want to take that so fast, but not getting that off track. I haven't driven it that much on iRacing, but on other sims like F1, I've driven it there some laps. Yeah, looking forward to that one. Think it's gonna be a big slip fest with the Skippy. Because here you got a few technical corners where you can really gain a lot of time or some tenths. And there, yeah, I think it's that long straight just gonna keep yeah, the draft open all the time, I think. Yeah, it's gonna be fun there. I was thinking of a corner where you can really gain, but no, I think it's gonna be a fun race there. Yeah, looking forward to it. Hope some more people will join there then. From a feeling there were a bit less people if you compare it to previous races, but it could be me. But yeah, feeling comfy in the car these days.
So before we go though, I'm gonna ask you a question that will probably feature at the very start of the race in 2 weeks' time. How many skippies are you gonna bet that we can get in a line down towards the hairpin? You know, across the track. How many wide?
In that first lap, oh, I didn't even thought about that. I think that's gonna be crazy, man. I will put my money on. I think it's gonna be, if it's gonna be a wild one, 7, otherwise 6 or something. It's gonna be probably. Yeah, I put my money on 6.
Okay, 6. So that's our first bet for how many cars we can get wides down the down into the hairpin. Nolan, do you have any number that you're thinking of right now?
I think 4 or 5 is reasonable. You can fit 6, but I think people are not going to be that stupid enough to go for that one.
No, but only middle. You never know. You never know.
Yeah, with some of these drivers, you know, with how many risks they take, I wouldn't be surprised. But thank you very much for joining us, Sam. It's been a brilliant race for you. Of course, you weren't able to, you know, get the double at the very end, but you were so close to doing so. Very good points haul. See you in 2 weeks' time, I suppose.
Yeah, I will be there. Thanks you guys for the stream again, and yeah, we'll see you next time. I hope.
All right, thank you very much. That was Sam Keated there. Winner in the sprint race, 2nd place in the feature. Not a bad day at the office at all there, Nolan.
No, not at all. I mean, we all know that if he had not run out of fuel there, he absolutely would have had this race won. So I think he can take that home with him as well, to know that he has got a race-winning car, and he can absolutely go out there and take the victory at Hockenheim. He just has got to put it together and maybe get the strategy a little bit right, and then, of course, you'll have one in the bag.
Well, with that, then, we're going to have to wrap things up here at Imola for round number 4 of the 2K Skip Barber World Cup. What a race! Well, what a couple of races we've had once again here in this series. It delivers time and time again. You have no idea who's going to win the race, you know, before the qualifying even starts. You know, it could be one of many, many, many names, but this time it was Keita in the sprint race, Lockwood in the feature race are able to get themselves to the very top of the podium. But it could be completely different in 2 weeks' time at Hockenheim. A new track here on iRacing, new track for 2K Skip Barber World Cup as well. Join us here on RaceSpotTV for that. Same place, same time in 2 weeks. But for now, we'll have to say goodbye.